Yo, yo, welcome to Trippy Commentaries and our coverage of the 2014 fantasy football season. Today we will talk about the top quarterbacks available this year. I think you guys know who the number one guy is. It has to be Peyton Manning. I'm sure we all agree on that. But
Yep.
we did see him get his ass kicked in the Super Bowl, so is he as safe as we all think? We'll definitely talk about it. I'm RJ, joined by Mike
What's going on?
and K-Mac.
How's everybody doing?
Let's get into it, guys. Let's start off, as I said, with Peyton Manning. I'm assuming he's your number one guys. Kyle, is Peyton Manning at the top for you?
Yeah, definitely at the top. I feel they're actually maybe a little improved this year on the receiving core. So definitely clear cut number one for me.
Mike, number one guy?
Yeah, absolutely. Peyton Manning, definitely clear cut number one here. Addition of Emmanuel Sanders, little weapon,
Yeah, I mean, we'll say it right now. A lot of us here at Trippy Commentaries are actually higher on Emmanuel Sanders than we were on Eric Decker. So that could actually be a bonus here for Peyton Manning. It's kind of funny how you lose a guy on Decker's level, and you might be getting better. As Kyle said, we're going to have Monty Ball kind of, in there a little bit more as far as the receiving game's concerned. He certainly will be getting more rushes, that's for sure. But I think he also will be getting some receiving touchdowns. And I think you could see Julius Thomas take another step. Demaryius Thomas, their stud wide receiver, might be the number one guy overall. Of course, you have Calvin Johnson, but it's not going to surprise us at all if Demaryius Thomas can keep up with him this year.
Right.
So when it comes to Peyton Manning, Kyle, I know it's saying a lot, but do you think there's any way he could have a better season this year than he did last year, where he just tore the roof off of the building?
Yeah, why not? Like we just touched on, the addition of Emmanuel Sanders alone to me, that's gonna, I think, increase his yardage as well as his touchdowns. We know Emmanuel Sanders can break a lot of plays off after he's caught the ball. Something that I felt Decker wasn't as skilled at. Decker was a good possession guy, was able to get open, but usually when he caught the ball, there was really nothing after that. Sanders is the exact opposite. As soon as this guy catches the ball, he's got a chance to go all the way, on any play. So that addition alone right there just, solidifies Peyton Manning as, I don't know if we'll get 55 touchdowns again, but, I mean, who knows? The sky's the limit as long as he can stay healthy.
Yeah, that's for sure. No debating that. Now, here we go, guys. The number two is a bit of a question mark. I'm hearing some people say Drew Brees. Some people say Aaron Rodgers. Some people even think that Matthew Stafford has a chance with it because he has Golden Tate. That could be a legit number two wide receiver. Really, when you have Calvin Johnson, it doesn't take much to have a legit number two. But Detroit has still struggled to find that guy. Kyle, who do you have? If you want your quarterback, Peyton's off the board, who are you going for?
I'm going Aaron Rodgers. For me, it's a no doubt clear cut number two. He's healthy. He says he feels good. He's got what I think is going to be a very big running back in the fantasy world this year, Eddie Lacy, who looked like a beast, unstoppable at the end of last year. I think he's going to pick up and be even better. You have Randall Cobb, who's going to be healthy, who, we've already said enough about Randall Cobb in the past. Everyone knows how good he is. You throw in a guy like Jared Boykin, who we saw last year had a lot of talent, a lot of big play making ability, and then they're the guy they just re-signed here and gave an extension to, Jordy Nelson, Mr. Dependable for Aaron Rodgers. No doubt, if he stays healthy like Manning, if Manning's off the board, I'm going Rodgers.
Now, a lot of people are going to be, I feel like, a little bit lower on Aaron Rodgers than normal this year because of what he did last year. I mean, look at his stats: 2,536 yards, 17 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's with, of course, the shortened season. Had a huge injury, but still managed to come back and lead his team into the playoffs. That's going to scare some people off. Mike, Drew Brees, I mean, look at his stats last year. He's a sure thing, and he's been relatively healthy for a while now. Can you take Aaron Rodgers over Drew Brees with the injury last year?
Actually, I do have Drew Brees as my number two. It's just with Jimmy Graham there, and I think Colston is going to have a decent year. He could do good.
He says he's fully healthy.
Yeah.
They say he looks
it really
great.
depends on that.
Brandon Cooks is a huge addition to Drew Brees' repertoire.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what happens. I think he's going to have another, average, excellent season.
Yeah, an average Drew Brees season, which is baller status. That's a coin flip.
And Mike, don't forget about the hidden talent of Aaron Rodgers, which is rushing touchdowns, and
True.
he gets a lot of them. That's extra points, man. I'm just saying.
I question that a little bit this year. I know a lot of people are banking on that running game. Last year we saw 0 rushing touchdowns from Aaron Rodgers, which is kind of crazy for him. But it's because he was dealing with that injury. I hope that he has the confidence. Of course, we would need him to be fully healthy to do this, but hopefully he has the confidence to start running like we've seen in the past. I gotta imagine he's going to get more than 0 rushing touchdowns this season. Now, the number 4 guy. This is an interesting situation. We talked about Matthew Stafford. One guy we haven't mentioned is Tom Brady. Brady's going to have Gronkowski here. It's going to elevate his statistics, to say the least. Nick Foles was a baller last year, but he's losing Deshaun Jackson. Number 4 is up for grabs, including Colin Kaepernick, where I feel like if he just runs a little bit more, we saw him with the yardage last year, 4 rushing touchdowns. If he can possibly get that to 6 or 8, that's going to make him a contender for a top 5 quarterback. Kyle, at number 4, who are you looking at right now?
I'm going to have to go with Andrew Luck there. As we've talked about, I feel there's 3 elite quarterbacks, which we just touched on. And then after that, it kind of falls off, and then it kind of plateaus out for a little while. And there's a lot of really good quarterbacks, but I feel there's only 3 elite. I think Andrew Luck, out of the rest of these quarterbacks that are still here, is the guy that could possibly get into that elite level. He's a very smart quarterback, very athletic, very very mobile for a big guy, and I like everything that the Colts are doing, and I think Andrew Luck is going to have a better season than Matthew Stafford. I feel Matthew Stafford's not half the quarterback that Andrew Luck is. He's good at throwing the ball, but I do feel having Calvin Johnson always pushes his numbers up. But I don't think it's ever something for me that lasts for a full season. I know a lot of people have had Stafford in the past, have had some great moments, and then they've had some really terrible moments. And I just feel Andrew Luck is a guy this year that's really going to fit into his own here and be that kind of elite quarterback to lead the Colts back to the playoffs.
So that's a significant drop-off. I think we've kind of defined that initial elite group as Manning, Rodgers, and Brees. Andrew Luck, for as high as we all are on him with his running ability and the fact that he's so smart, he's going to improve this year. I still think that is a notch below those top 3 guys. Now, Peyton Manning has to go very high, possibly number 1 overall, probably in the top 5. Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees, what are you looking at here, Kyle? Possibly second round for those guys?
I can easily see somebody taking one of those guys in the first round. You kind of see it year in and year out. Drew Brees is definitely one of those guys that always people like to pick him up in the first round. I don't always agree with it, and I don't really, my advice would be to not do that unless you're in a deep league. Maybe if you're like in some crazy 12 to 14-man league and you have one of those low picks, pick them up. But, I feel the running back position is one that falls off much faster with having talented running backs. I feel you got to scoop those guys up early, and hopefully a lot of people do pass on Aaron Rodgers, so I can get him in the second round.
Mikey, so knowing what you know about the top-heavy quarterbacks here, if you use your first 2 picks on a running back, let's say you're lucky enough to get Jamal Charles and maybe I don't know. Let's look at this. Possibly a Doug Martin maybe falls to the second round. Perhaps DeMarco Murray a little bit more reasonable.
Right.
So you don't have a quarterback yet. Are you going to be comfortable with going with, possible Tom Brady here, Nick Foles, Colin Kaepernick, Tony Romo, and not having one of those top 3 guys?
You know what? I've done it before, and it's nerve-wracking. It really is. It's nice to have one of those elite guys on your team that you know you can throw out there every week.
Huge
and
advantage.
Not have to play, plug and play pretty much with your quarterback, which is supposed to be your, leader of your team.
Most of the time, getting the most
So,
points.
Yeah, exactly. So, I prefer to have one of those elite guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it really depends on what position you get if you're, depending on what kind of draft you're doing.
I notice with your teams, of course, we've all played in leagues together for a while, so we know a lot of each other's tendencies. I notice Mike normally has a top flight quarterback. He tries to fit that in somewhere. There's one year where he picked Matthew Stafford high and he didn't pay off for you. I think you actually got him in the first round, but most of the time you do have Aaron Rodgers. That's a favorite of yours. Cam Newton used to great effectiveness one year. So you're definitely someone who looks for a top quarterback. This year is going to be tougher because you're going to have to decide, should I get one of these guys we know is going to be a starting running back, or should I get one of these stud quarterbacks? If you don't, are you going to be comfortable, using one of these other guys? Because the point is, it's a mixed bag. Some people are going to think Tom Brady deserves to be up there. Nick Foles showed great stats, but he loses to Deshaun Jackson. I'm high on Colin Kaepernick this year. Tony Romo, in my personal rankings, I have him at number 9. He's won people championships time and time again. Kyle, what about you? Are you going to be focused on getting one of these top 3 guys, or do you look at it from the opposite angle of there's so many guys that are so comparable that you can pretty much hang with one of these mid-tier quarterbacks?
Not at all. I am more than happy to go with one of these guys in like the third round. If I can get a Russell Wilson in the third round, Tom Brady who possibly could fall in the third round, shoot, even a Tony Romo is going to put up quite a bit of fantasy points. Not a guy I really care for too much personally, but it's a guy who does put up points, and I mean, he's got one of the better receivers in the league. Why can't he do it again? He's got one of the better, most consistent tight ends in the league. Why can't he do it again? I mean, so yeah, I am more than happy of passing on those 3 guys, getting myself 2 solid running backs that I know every week are going to be tearing it up. Not having to worry about throwing in guys like Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis one week, and throwing somebody else in the next week, and you don't know if they're even going to get a point for you. I know these quarterbacks are going to put up points every week. I mean, it's very rare that a quarterback has a just terrible week where they don't even get to double digits. I mean, at least get me to double digits and beyond, because my running backs are going to carry me through the week.
Yeah, no, I think you can get some of those quarterbacks you mentioned far later than the third round, Kyle. I mean, Russell Wilson, for as good as he is, he's going to go pretty low.
Yeah, definitely.
Matt,
A guy like RG3 might even fall to the fourth round because people are scared to take him. Are you kidding me? If I can get a guy like that in the fourth round who has potential to be good, everything I've heard about him in the offseason has been nothing but positive. He's got Jay Gruden now. I mean, that's a guy that you could strike gold on. I did it 2 years ago. Doesn't mean, who's to say it's not going to happen again if he's healthy?
yeah, I think you'll be able to get him pretty low, Kyle. I think you can get him probably 5th or 6th round, maybe lower. So that'll be interesting to see. I know some people are going to have RG3 high, some people low. If you look at RG3's stats last year, they really weren't as bad as some people made him out to be, and he does add Deshaun Jackson. That's a huge weapon. I mean, they have some weapons here. As long as Jordan Reed can stay healthy, stay away from concussions, Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson is one of the best 1-2 punches you're going to find in the entire league. There is one player I want to ask you about, Kyle. Nick Foles. Nick Foles, if you look at a certain point when he came in, from that point on to the rest of the season, he led all quarterbacks in fantasy points. He was averaging like 25 points a week, something ridiculous. But you can attribute that to Deshaun Jackson. He does have Macklin coming back. Would you touch him in comparison to, let's compare him to, let's say, Matt Ryan, who has his weapons fully healthy this year. Who are you looking at as a better pick? And do you trust Nick Foles?
Yeah, well, see, it's interesting you bring up those 2 guys because I have Nick Foles actually dropping in my list, and I have Matt Ryan raising a little bit in my list just because he's going to have his receivers back. He's not going to have Tony Gonzalez, but I mean, just having Julio Jones back is huge. It's almost it's that kind of difference maker in the field. kind of like a Calvin Johnson. He has the ability to be almost that good. But Nick Foles, I mean, this guy looked ridiculous last year. You can throw it up to saying, yeah, so did, Deshaun Jackson was good, but Deshaun Jackson had a big fucking season because Nick Foles had a really good season. So I felt all the receivers last year. Our hometown guy here, Riley Cooper. We felt that he had a great season. Got paid. He's going to be kind of like their number one guy on the outside. He's just going to be streaking the field. I would definitely, if I can get Nick Foles in the fourth round, that would be ridiculous. Maybe in the third round, if quarterbacks are going quick and he's on the board, he's definitely somebody I would definitely consider.
And there's one guy we'd be remiss if we didn't mention in a top quarterbacks discussion, especially for fantasy purposes. Mike, there's one guy. Is this guy a top fantasy quarterback to you, or is he now in the middle of the pack? And that guy is future Hall of Famer Tom Brady. Do you still see him as an upper echelon quarterback at this point of his career?
It's tough, I had him that season where it was difficult.
Didn't do too well, but
yeah,
it's mostly because Gronkowski got injured and his receivers were lackluster. But if you look at the end of his career, or I'm sorry, the end of his season, his stats weren't terrible. Gronkowski looks healthy here, Mike.
Yeah, I like you said, Gronkowski might be healthy here, and that could be good. And you have Edelman.
Loves him.
Do you have Amendola still there?
Amendola's still there. I mean, possible bounce back, and they're very high on Aaron Dobson.
Yeah, so you could have a good receiver core, with their second year here, getting some communication skills together here, and possibly looking better.
Another guy we got to mention, Shane Vereen, is going to be healthy the entire season. Vereen's a huge receiving threat. That's going to add to Tom Brady's stats. And the thing that makes Tom Brady a fringe stud quarterback is Rob Gronkowski. If Gronkowski's healthy the whole year, I think you're going to see Tom Brady contend for a top 4 spot over Andrew Luck and the likes of Matthew Stafford. But it all depends on those weapons staying healthy, Kyle. What do you view Tom Brady's value as of right now with his weapons seemingly healthy heading into the season?
I have him kind of like in the 6 to 7 range. That's kind of where I feel he deserves to be at right now. He's going to have a great season. I don't. These people are talking about him getting falling low. I don't see it. What has Tom Brady ever done to make us believe that didn't happen? I mean, he had nothing last year, and he still put up good stats and led his team to win games. Vintage Tom Brady, he's going to be automatic for you. He might have the outstanding games that some of these other people are having. Usually he's pretty consistent. I would be happy having Tom Brady this year.
I mean, he had a lot of yards last year. I mean, 4,343, certainly respectable. 25 touchdowns is quite the drop-off. If we're calling him an elite quarterback, that's not even close to Peyton Manning's 55. If you look at Drew Brees, he had 39. That towers over Tom Brady's 25. Nick Foles, in limited time, had 27 touchdowns. So that's not going to cut it. But we have to say that Tom Brady is certainly a likely candidate to bounce back. Final question, Kyle. Putting you on the spot. Fantasy draft, you still need your quarterback. You have 2 guys available, Nick Foles and Tom Brady. Who you taking?
Nick Foles and Tom Brady? Whew. That's a tough one, man. It's funny that you say that because I do have them back to back in my listing that I have. It's a tough call. I think either way, you're getting a good quarterback. Obviously, Tom Brady is more proven. Nick Foles, call it maybe a freshman luck. Look at the old sophomore slump that could be coming. Doesn't have his number 1 receiver last year. Tom Brady, I feel, has his number 1 receiver back, even though he's a tight end. And I have to go Tom Brady, man.
Yeah, I have Tom Brady 1 spot ahead in my rankings as well. We will be busting out in our entire rankings for you guys. In fact, we'll be working on those videos this weekend to release for you just in time for preseason. We'll have quarterback rankings, running back, wide receiver, tight end. even kicker. We'll bust those all out for you. Definitely, we look forward to sharing all of our knowledge with you all season long. Drop your comments. Let us know who you plan on getting in your draft. And there's still a lot of quarterbacks we didn't even get to talk about in this video, guys. Matt Ryan, we barely touched on. Phillip Rivers looked like a stud last year. Cam Newton is all of a sudden down. Russell Wilson could have a breakout season after that Super Bowl victory. And even Josh McCown with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers has plenty of weapons. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm RJ for Mike and Kyle. Stay trippy, and we'll see you in the next episode of our fantasy football coverage. Peace out, guys.